Do you know where your phone comes from? The lithium is mined in Chile, combined with cobalt from the Congo, made into a chip in Taiwan, with glass from Kentucky, and it's all assembled in a factory in Shenzhen before landing in your pocket a few weeks later. That one product crosses half of the planet before you even touch it. This is globalization. And for the last 80 years, it's been the system running the modern world. But now, that system is starting to shake a little. Politicians are talking about tariffs again. Companies are moving factories closer to home. And working class voters, especially in the US and Europe, are demanding change. So, what's actually happening? Why is globalization slowing down? And what could it mean for the global economy? Let's break it down. Globalization is simple in theory. Countries specialize in what they're best at. Japan builds cars. China makes electronics. The US designs software and finances almost everything. Everyone trades, everyone gets richer. This model fueled decades of economic growth. Products got cheaper, supply chains got faster, and hundreds of millions of people were lifted out of poverty. While the world isn't in an all out trade war yet, we are in a trade realignment. Tariffs are reappearing as countries are trying to onshore business, and corporations are diversifying production, shifting from China to Vietnam, Mexico, and India. But countries like the US can't rebuild 40 years of offshoring overnight. Factories need workers, infrastructure, and expertise, all of which takes years to develop. And when one country raises tariffs or blocks exports, others naturally retaliate. So, while globalization is evolving, it's also getting messier, slower, and more expensive. This is clear in the US China relationship. In 2024, the US imported nearly $500 billion worth of goods from China, more than any country by far. And China itself imports around $150 billion from the US and holds over $1 trillion of US government debt. That's not just trade, that's interdependence. The two countries might compete politically, but economically, they're still tied at the hip. And that's the paradox of globalization. It makes everyone more powerful, but it also makes us all more vulnerable. Right now, global debt sits at roughly 235% of global GDP, and much of it is denominated in US dollars. That means even countries trying to break away from the dollar, like China, Russia, and India, still rely on it to buy oil, pay debts, and trade internationally. The world talks about deglobalization and de dollarization, but that's like saying you want to quit the internet. You can leave, but good luck running a modern economy without it. So, what happens if this system starts to come apart? Trade would become slower and more regional, supply chains would shorten, and costs, from food to electronics, would go up. The countries that import more than they export, like the US and much of Europe, would feel it the worst. Meanwhile, resource rich countries, or those with large, cheap workforces, could suddenly find themselves in much stronger positions. We'd likely see new regional trade blocs emerge, one centered around the US, another around China, and maybe even smaller ones around India, Brazil, or the EU. In other words, a fragmented world economy. And the risks don't even stop there. Climate change, demographic decline, and political instability are already straining global systems. If trust in international trade breaks down too, it could trigger price shocks, shortages, and financial turmoil. Globalization made the modern world efficient, but also fragile. It gave us cheaper goods, global wealth, and peace through interdependence. But now, that same interdependence is becoming a source of tension. So, is globalization collapsing? Not exactly. It's evolving, shifting from one big, unified market into a set of regional, competing ones. The age of easy trade is ending, and a new one, defined by security, strategy, and self interest, is beginning. The question isn't whether globalization will survive, it's what form will it take next. Thanks for watching, and if you found this interesting, consider subscribing, because the story of the global economy isn't slowing down anytime soon.